thing into water. What happens if the water that you're dipping into, or the water that was on it, became ice? And therefore it's no longer a mashket, no longer a drink, but rather it's a solid. It became ice. It became something which is not anymore a liquid. In such a case, everybody would agree that a person does not need netilah for such a thing. So therefore, if let's say the ice already froze over on the fruit or on the cookie or whatever it is, in such a case, a person would not have to dip his hands for eating such a thing. However, what happens if the ice now melts again, and now you got back mashke? So most opinions hold in such a case, kivan that it turned into a ma'achal, turned into a food, a solid at one point, even if it turns back into water, a person would not have to wash his hands. So therefore, if a person is eating something which was ice, and now the ice melted and it became into a liquid, a person does not have to wash his hands for such a thing. The exception to that, he says, is let's say yain. If a person has wine that was frozen over and then it melted again, that does not lose its shem mashke. This is all again me'ikar adin. If a person wants to be mahmid, a person who wants to go wash his hands anyways, he's always allowed to wash, and it's not a problem to wash in such a case. However, me'ikar adin, a person is not obligated to wash once the water turned into ice, even if it turns back into a mashke, into a liquid afterwards. If a person dips his hands into a liquid, or into a more practical case, into let's say honey, where a person is actually dipping his hand into this liquid or into this honey, and then he's eating straight without anything. So he says also, a person does not need to wash his hands in such a case. A person is not obligated, but again, one who wants to be mahmid, a person who wants to be extra careful, wants to wash his hands before doing so, he's allowed to, again, as a precaution, as an extra misafek. However, me'ikar adin, a person would not have to wash his hands for such a case. And last case that he brings down is something that's not the derech to be told. If it's not something which would normally be dipped, people do not usually dip such a thing. If a person decided to dip in such a case, he says a person would not have to wash his hands, since it's davar she'eno tovel, it's not something which you usually dip. Even if you dip it into liquid, he says in such a case, a person would not have to wash his hands.